bro.
So I got an interesting story to start off the podcast. My wife and I took a couple of our kids to the national park yesterday.
Yeah.
And so we're driving back home, and we're going through the casino, or going through the res rather. And I see, like, as we're passing through, I see at a distance what I think is Sam, because I see his beautiful hair.
Yeah.
And I'm like, is he getting into that? That's his car, because he drives some kind of fucking sedan, some like Ford or whatever,
the silver one.
And I saw him, and I was like, oh shit, I think, because he got into the car, I didn't like really get a good look at him, and I was like, oh, I think that's Sam. And my wife was like, oh, he's probably not going to show up to training tomorrow. And I looked up, and I was like, oh, it's the liquor store. I don't know.
Welcome back to Uktena Underground. You already know what it is. It's Corey J. We got one returning guest, Eason.
Hola, ¿cómo está?
Jesus. It's really always the intro or the outro. He has to like just add something, a little spice or something. Dude.
A little razzle dazzle.
And then we have two new guests today. You want to introduce yourself? Quick overview, origin story, maybe. You can start.
My name's Steven Bartelli. Okay. I know you through, we train
Muay Thai we all train Muay Thai. That's how I met these.
Chris is, I've known Chris for a few years. We worked at the same restaurant for a while. It's been kind of a long while, like the better part of a decade. And then he does martial arts. He does Muay Thai, and he's a Muay Thai coach. And so I started attending his Muay Thai class, and that's where I met you. Mm-hmm. And then Sam, I worked with Sam and Chris, and we all trained together. And then Sam and Chris and I used to work together. It's all kind of
come full circle.
Yeah. And now we're here. I'm Chris. From Southern California, transplant into the mountains.
Turn this off.
Enjoyed Muay Thai. I still enjoy Muay Thai. Coaching now, and honestly, the coaching has opened so many doors. Like, I would have never met you at all if it wasn't for Muay Thai and Sam. Sam being one of the biggest, if not the biggest proprietor of the Muay Thai class, bringing in so many new people all the time. Corey being one of our main attendees, always showing up to to the class.
One of the most consistent training partners.
On the lower side of
which is like,
but you're, as far as consistency goes, you're probably one of the most consistent people.
If you don't do like this kind of like combat sports martial arts classes, if you haven't like boxed or done jiu-jitsu or judo or whatever, the most important thing, the only thing you actually need to do any of these sports is just training partners. You know, like, you don't really need the bags and the pads. Like, they're like they're not as important as just having training partners to work with. So like, someone who's like consistently shows up is like super valuable. People who like, and like people who just have good looks. Like, it's just that's just a nice thing to have, you know. So we always like appreciate dudes who, you know, people who come to class.
Yeah, right. You know? And you'll see that consistency, like even just in how much you've grown in the time that you've been here from the very beginning. Like, if we look at I have videos of you when you first started, and like today versus that would look absolutely night and day. So it's like just a matter of you showing up. I've only showed you how to do stuff. You figured all of this out on your own just by practicing it and doing it consistently. So like with that type of
sometimes people fucking don't show up and come, and then they have like wicked fucking looks that, cause they've obviously been thinking about it when they're not.
Yeah.
And like sometimes, because I've been training in martial arts, like these kinds of things I'm 35. I've been doing it since I was probably like 18 or 19, really like right when I got out on my own, and like actually had a choice to because I didn't have any sort of autonomy prior to that point. Mm-hmm. So as soon as I was able, I was like training. I started doing jiu-jitsu, doing like MMA places, but I never trained consistently. You know, like I never found discipline. It wasn't until like recently, like coming into my 30s, that I was able to like find the discipline to keep going. And I found many times that like I would progress more in periods where I hadn't been training, man, because I was my mind was never out of it, dude. I was always like watching fucking YouTube and shit,
picking little things up.
And dude, like if you're like actively thinking about it, man, like you can really make a lot of progress in a short amount of time. Like once you get onto the mats, dude. I think like thinking about it is the most important thing 100%. To do. I think it's more like.
Well, that's where it all starts, though. You know, like, you're not like, okay, let me just try it real quick and then go. And you like have a success rate, right? Maybe if you're like a freak of nature, but most of the time it's like, okay, well, if I'm going to do it right, I'm going to shift to the right and then swing my hip into it to land a kick properly with my shin.
When you get in an exchange, it happens so fast that like there can be no conscious thought. And so it has to be like you've got like two. I think of it as having like two kind of animals. You got like your reptile brain, and that's your really primitive fight or flight response. Yeah, like quick. And then you've got like a big monkey in the front. You've got like your big frontal cortex, and that's like your chest playing. That's your big. So you got a monkey and a lizard, and I kind of think of it as like before a fight when I'm training, I like train my reptile. You know. It sounds like I'm talking about my dick. I train my lizard. But, like, so that's like drills, right? And so, like, whenever we do drills, and you have to do it consciously, like, you have to think about, like, when it's appropriate, like, when these, because if you just, like, drill a combo without thinking about when it should be done, you know, it's like, I don't think that's, like, very intelligent training. But we do have to, like, train our body to be able to do these movements like fluidly and like transition into them quickly and to have balance while we're doing it. Like we got to be able to do all these things. And that happens so fast that we have to rely on our reptile to do that. And I think most people who like fight, like they just have like a really wicked fucking reptile that's like really fucking quick. But there's no, I would rather be like, have a decent fucking trained reptile and have a really smart monkey who's got the reptile on the leash and he like unleashes it at the right time. And so I think of like these techniques as like tools. Whenever I see a fucking thing happening, you know, I think about like the tool that's like a hammer is a great tool for like one task, but it's fucking awful if you need to like remove a screw. You know what I mean? So it's like throw like if your low kick works great in this situation, but you throw it at a southpaw because you don't think about when you just know that you have a sick ass technique, but that sick ass technique breaks your fucking leg. Yeah. You know, like the better your technique, the worse it's gonna be if his fucking checking technique is good and it's timed well. You know, so it's like I want to be able to fucking sick my lizard on that motherfucker at the right moment.
I found like there's a fine line between developing, and this is kind of my beef with like Dutch kickboxing, is that you develop this muscle memory over time, practicing these drills over and over and over and over and over, and then you're like, okay, I've got this technique down. And I think there's an appropriate way to develop a technique before you get into sparring. In my opinion, I think you start out on the bag. Like maybe someone shows you how to do it. You do it on the bag. You get a couple adjustments, and then you do it in some live drills, and then you try and figure out how to actually apply it
in context.
Yeah. So once you've figured out how to use the tool, like a good example of this is like I watched Damon Trainer, who's just like a savant, like a technical savant. He's this older English guy that actually fought a bunch of legendary ties, did really well, but he's got this really Dutch style jab, cross, left hook, and then into a right low kick, but his left hook is so sharp. So spent a lot of time watching him and trying to develop that left hook, and I'm smashing it on the bag. And I remember looking at my coach, is this tiny little Thai guy I tell you guys about, Crew Pan, and he's just kind of sitting there cross-arm looking at me, and he's kind of like nodding a little bit, but I can tell he's like not super pleased with it. So I'm like, something's wrong, you know? And so he throws me in the ring with this guy named Chad, and Chad was just like our sparring guy. He's just 6'5", big,
he's just that
giant
tank
guy.
He's just like, okay.
And he was so nice. He'd just spend the entire time defending you, and then he'd like just let you know where you were open, right? And he was nice about it. He wouldn't beat you up.
So it was a solid training environment.
Oh, he was great.
Okay. I thought this was going to turn like that.
No.
That's
so
cool.
I go to start throwing this left hook, and it's just not there. I'm throwing it like exactly I'm throwing it on the back, and I can't touch him with it.
That's some Mr. Miyagi shit, man. That's good. That's good coaching.
Oh, he was great. So yeah, I eventually, after a little bit of time, and actually we had a boxing guy there that wasn't, he's a coach now, but at the time he was just a boxer training at a Muay Thai gym. and he actually kind of like made me privy to how to position properly to throw the hook. But I thought I had this immaculate like knockout liver destroying left hook on the bag, and then I go to apply it and I can't even touch it.
Dude, that's really sick fucking coaching, because he didn't tell you. He facilitated an environment where you had to learn it yourself, and you had to solve the problem yourself.
Yep, and
like that's
and he didn't talk very much. He was very like, if there was a problem,
maybe that's a technique. Maybe like not speaking the language well.
That was a
kind of like because you got to find out some way to communicate.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah. And his communication was, if you were like defensively irresponsible, he had this pool noodle with a broomstick in it. So it was like, it hurt to get hit by that shit. It still hurt. Like,
you described that funny. You said pool noodle. I would describe it as a broomstick with some shoddy fucking pool noodle.
Dude, I mean, you'd be like kicking the bag.
You started us off.
I think you might have some Stockholm syndrome, dude.
Oh, I love that, dude.
It's like you got abused.
I would throw kicks, and I like would have this hand low, and I'd throw kicks, and I would just see this green pool noodle like out of the corner of my when you're like, oh shit, and he's like, hand higher.
That's crazy though. Yeah, so I guess like we were talking a lot, so we've been talking a lot about development, right? Mm-hmm. And how I was trying to think too how like the conversation we had about how anybody's real freedom, or was it me and you that had that conversation about the only freedom anybody else has is to figure it out on their own? Or did it play a part into the conversation we had?
I don't know. I think so, man.
I don't think it was actually said, but maybe we were dancing around that.
For sure.
So I like that concept that how he's like, all right, he's got to learn, but I mean, he'll figure it out this way.
Dude, everyone, like you are, for all I know, dude, none of you guys even fucking exist. I can only know that I exist, you know?
Mm-hmm. Right.
I think, therefore I am, right? Like, we are born in this world completely fucking alone, and we die completely fucking, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's the, you guys ever watch, The Bear? That show on FX? Yeah. So, probably my favorite character in The Bear is Richie. That guy who's like a fucking dick who has like an ego death.
Okay.
And like a genuine ego death.
Yeah.
Dude, I watch it, man, and it's like, it's just me in my late 20s. Yeah. It's like, it's heavy, dude. And he's such a fucking cunt at the beginning, you know? And he just, but you also see he's like he's not like a bad person.
Yeah.
He's just got like all this, you know,
pent up
these things that he hasn't fucking addressed, and he's like he just starts to grow up, man, and he starts to like gain some independence. He's been codependent, and or he's been dependent.
Gotcha.
And his wife was no longer dependent, and so she left him, and so he had to let go. And he talks about some director. I can't remember the director's name, but he talks about a director, like he read an essay that this director wrote where he was looking at one of those Zen rock gardens, those like sand fucking places with the rocks, and these dudes like every day they come out and they rake these waves around these rocks, and they like rake away all the footprints, and it's like this. And these rocks are like sitting in space. And the dude said that what he realized about the rocks was that they were like, whenever they would meditate on it, these Zen gardens, and these dudes would meditate on these rocks, and what they were is like these little individual sort of entities within this like space, completely separate from these other. There was no connection to them. That's what like the waves were representing. And they were, those rocks were just us, dude. We're just like we are just completely fucking, like if it were the Matrix, right? We're in our own fucking pods, separate from it. We are like in our own little sort of meat fucking vehicle, you know? And you, like, dude, whenever you like, when I first really sort of made that realization, it was like pretty devastating, you know? And, you know, like, I had like suicidal ideations about it. It was like pretty depressing. But you have to learn that. You have to, because it's just the truth. It just is.
It's a hefty,
you know, and so if there is a way to thrive as a human, and I'm not sure that there is. Like, I think it might just innately be a raw fucking deal. But if there is a way to find meaning, even if it's like illusory or whatever. Like we evolved to like thrive in a certain set of circumstances. So even if I'm aware of it, you know, it's like Cyrus going back into the fucking Matrix.
Yeah,
you know what
yeah.
I mean? It's like if I can like, if there's a way to do it, it has to be with recognition of the fact, because I can't unlearn.
Yeah,
that,
yeah,
like,
you're already conscious. That
dude,
already ripped off.
like I'm on my own. I gotta be able to. I gotta keep going.
You've only
you know?
got the devices at hand, the tools you've got, so just make it work, you know?
And the things that seem most permanent in my life, like my marriage, are like these are like physical.
Yeah.
My wife is like a physical thing separate from me, you know what I mean? And and she can be gone.
Yeah.
You know? One of us will be gone at some point.
Yeah.
You know? And it's like, and it like, am I just gonna fucking blow my brains out when that happens? And it's like, you know, like I won't, you know? I fucking hope I won't.
Yeah.
Like I don't know, but like I would like to think that I can like fucking.
That you can like navigate that when it happens.
That's just like you know, that's being a person, man.
Yeah.
You know, and frankly, we experience a lot less of that now than we ever would have, than any of our ancestors ever did. You know, so like,
believe it or not, this is the most peaceful time in human history ever.
Well, it's like it depends. You know, like parts of Liberia are still pretty gnarly, but it's like, it depends on like where you are.
Statistically, the world has less war.
No, for
ever.
sure.
Like,
but but they're, you know, like, but they're even within like a generally safe place. Like
there's still bad shit going on.
Yeah, man. I mean, there's still like, yeah, like I remember like watching a documentary about like people growing up in Compton and shit.
Oof, bro.
It's just like people never leaving these like little fucking 7 or 8 like square block areas. Yeah, dude.
Yeah. And that's just life, and it's fucking crazy, bro.
Yeah, man. And so like there's this fucking spectrum
for sure.
You know? But for sure, I like if it's like, hey, you can stay here, or I'm gonna send you back to some random fucking point, some random geographic location. Yeah. Where do you think you'll be safer? Fucking right here.
Yeah.
Even if they were like,
100%.
you'll be around people, I'm like, that sounds worse.
Yeah.
We'll be in the wilderness.
I don't trust those people. I don't know.
I'll just like it's fucking 6 in 7 chance it won't be Antarctica. So like I'll probably live long enough to maybe find some food.
Right. That's crazy that we're actually we're incorporating that into the conversation, because yesterday my brother showed me a video that the guy we just did a podcast with, he went to school with Ari. You've heard me talk about him. Oh, you actually worked with him.
Met,
you guys met with
super cool guy. Yeah. That was the Harvard guy, right?
Stanford.
He had long hair, braids.
Did you work with him for a hot minute?
Yeah, he trained.
Yeah, he came to train once.
Yeah.
I worked with him.
Super smart. Not work, but like worked out.
Oh yeah. Okay. I remember.
But you had him over there for a hot minute.
Yeah. I thought you were talking about like I worked with him
striking before.
Yeah.
He's done a lot of grappling.
Was that Muay Thai?
It wasn't Kazakh. It was Ari. Kazakh had work. So
heard.
But
man, so many people come through there. I totally forgot about that.
I forget
He was
all the
a
time.
cool
So I brought
fucking
him.
dude.
I saw him on his like he did some on his Instagram, and I was like, I know this guy from somewhere. I'm like, oh my god, that's right. You know?
I think I put it on the story. And he was sharing.
He was coming from New York City. That's right. Or was it New York? Or was
he
it
had just got back from
California?
New York, or maybe it was LA.
California.
He was coming from California. He grew up out
I'm
there.
such a fucking rube, dude. Like all these big places are kind of the same to me. I'm like,
It's very similar.
But he sent Kazakh a video, and it basically went through the like development stages, right? As far as like intelligence go, and I'll have to send it to you guys and let you guys watch it on the back end, because it's kind of a lot to explain. But there's these different levels, and essentially it goes from like primitive, like caveman, right?
Mm-hmm. Kind of reactionary stimuli. Stuff.
Yeah, it's like I need food,
base
and I want
necessities.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
But then
Food, water, shelter.
that's level 1.
Yep.
You're aware of what you want, what you need, right? You're conscious.
Mm-hmm.
Level 2 is
Assuming
like
those have been satisfied,
Right.
we are now into level 2 necessities. What are those?
well, not even that. It's level 2, right? I'm aware that you're here and you need this, this, and this, and I need this, this, and this, right?
So it's
and
like
then level 3 is
responsibility
how do we
and
get
social.
to that and meet both those needs.
Oh, is that
then level 4 is there's a group, right? And then there's another group that also has
an adjacent group.
Yeah.
Oh.
And then level 5 is that group and this group and this group. So they're all in this area and there's like conflict and resolution.
If you go to Papua New Guinea, they never get past like level 2. You know, it's like the very next communities are murdering each other. So like you got to get to. I mean, I guess.
So it basically like when you get to level 7,
it kind of becomes like a fractal. Like it can just go and go because you can have like planets, like alien.
That's basically what it kind of gets into, except for the planet side, right? It's just still on Earth, but you get to like level 7 to where you're like you've taken 15 steps back as far as looking at a whole situation. And you're like, okay, so there's these groups over here that have. Or there's this guy that has these needs, and they're with this group that have these needs, and they have these needs and these needs, and It's taking a look back at all these different things and play a part. And why is this happening? Well, it's because I needed this, I needed this, but I couldn't get to this because of this, and then that also affects because of that. But I think that because I've had this growing up, and it gets into that time where you're taking a step back and looking at your development over time.
So it's almost like you're perceiving the future based on reading what the base necessities of people's wants and needs, and you're able to almost predict what. And it
kind of plays into seeing yourself develop and that change over time as well, right? So it takes like not just the physical side of it.
There's tons of shit going on.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like I said,
I only got hit to that like in my 30s. Now that I'm like old enough to like I can like look at my adult life in stages. I kind of think of my childhood because I used to think of my childhood as like in stages, and now I kind of just think of it as like that was like the first part of my life. And because I'm getting further and further removed, so I need to. It's fractal,
like
right?
It's one whole.
And most people don't make it out of level 6 or 7, right? Yeah, and then like there's 8 and then 9, as far as we know, as humans can understand, is just perfection. Right, nobody's perfect. But that's 9.
Gotcha.
That's like we're Buddhas.
Right.
Yeah. And we're like pure energy fucking feeding.
But most people only reach that baseline 6, sometimes 7, and then like you got your super intelligent like Einstein people. 8 and they understand and they're like into 9. You know, right?
Yeah.
And like it's just reaching.
They're like they're tapping into that. You know, I heard someone say one time. You know the Jesus fish.
Yeah.
It looks like it's
infinity, right?
No, the infinity would be. Well, I guess it could, but
in a sense.
But I
guess a goofy looking.
So I heard someone once describe it as he used the word Vesica Pisces, but he might have been a bit of a
loose cannon.
No, like a
metaphysical guru.
Yeah, man. Like he might have been like a grifter a little bit, but he was hyper intelligent. And he did this cool thing where he drew the fucking Jesus fish.
Or anything.
It's all good. Like, you know what the Jesus fish looks like. Fucking old ladies have it on the back of their Toyota Camrys, you know? Sometimes it says Jesus in there. Yeah. And then some smart ass fucking dude put one that said Darwin and it's got little feet on it. You know what I'm saying? But you know what a Venn diagram looks like? It's like 2 circles that intersect. Well, the Jesus fish is that little middle part of the Venn diagram with a little tail. Yeah. Right. So it's like that section. It's the middle section of a Venn diagram. And so what he said was like that symbol comes from. There's like the parable about like teach a man to fish or whatever the fuck. There's like always like there are associations with him and fish for whatever reason. But in addition to that like middle part of the Venn diagram, it's like what you were talking about, like how people like Einstein or whomever are like kind of tapping into that like other realm. The idea of like Jesus is like a Buddha, is someone who it like occupies this realm, but occupies that realm simultaneously.
The Christ consciousness.
And so they are in the middle. There's like heaven and earth, or there's like earth and nirvana, or samsara and nirvana, or like fucking like life sucks and like enlightened or whatever. And then like there's like the people who can occupy the same, so they can talk to us, and they know. Because it's not a thing you can communicate. It's like a higher dimensional idea. It's like trying to communicate that idea to a dog. You know what I mean? It's like you have to. That's how it's different languages across theorized. The board. I don't necessarily believe any of that fucking shit. By the way,
right?
Maybe I like it, and I kind of was seduced by it when I first heard it because it felt very it kind of filled a need.
You let
for
in
me.
what's comfortable.
Yeah, it provided meaning in a place because I had like lost any semblance of like. I had like a very faint sort of like Christian influence at the very early stages of my life. It's pretty much gone by the time I was 16, but I wasn't thinking about much when I was 16, you know? And then as I got into early adulthood, now I'm thinking about it, and I'm thinking of like the implications of there not being like a God as it was described to me when I was a child. Now I'm like wondering how, you know, so like, and I feel like a need for meaning. And I just think that's because people evolved to be pattern recognition machines. And I think we find patterns where they don't exist all the time.
There's a word for that.
Yeah, there is. It's like that the number fucking 27 or whatever that was, that fucking Jim Carrey movie. Like that, people do that all the time where they find like connections with numbers, and it's like it's cool, but it's not like a difficult thing to do.
It can become dangerous though.
And I think it's because that's like we were more effective hunters and gatherers because we like our species kind of use that strategy for survival,
pattern
like
recognition.
Hunters and gatherers. And so like having like that big monkey brain that we were talking about that can like categorize things well. Like you can't categorize things unless you are like drawing distinctions and finding patterns. And then you couple that with like the language thing, and now you can like you have these mouth noises that you can associate with certain things. Time
perception too. We're one of the only creatures that can perceive.
Because we can think about stuff. But I think we're like pattern recognition machines, and I think consequently, we like as just sort of a natural consequence of that, we like find patterns where they wouldn't necessarily be, and I think where we find patterns, we like associate meaning, you know.
Right.
And it's like and so like. I think that kind of might be a trap is like when you hear these like very, very like well articulated ideas about like how the universe works and how like there's like this sort of underlying like consciousness to which we all need to like try and like
that's kind of like our duality, you know, like we go so much between the physical and then what we can experience and understand with our physical five physical
versus
senses.
What we can intuit.
Exactly. So it's like that constant back and forth, and you can almost
think about it, like, dude, there's light that exists outside of our fucking spectrum of like vision.
There's animals that can see like 20, or I think it's called like a mantis shrimp. Have you guys ever seen those things?
Yeah.
They can like punch faster than a bullet or something, and they're
crazy.
They like break the sound barrier
underwater. So how they hunt is they just chill. Something comes by, they knock it unconscious, and then they just
punch
eat it.
the shit out of it.
I've never actually seen that.
And they clip of a mantis shrimp punching the fuck out of a crab. It will crack that crab with a single
they bust their shells. They look so cool.
So their eyes can see in thermal, like all these different spectrums that we can't see, and so it all comes down to like cones and rods in our eyes.
Cones and rods.
Like a TV has a red, blue, green, right? Like RBG, and our eyes. So basically, there's no real yellow happening on a TV, but because of the combination of our cones and rods, we perceive it as being a color that isn't actually there. So like if another creature with different cones and rods looks at our TV, it's not even going to look like something.
You guys want to hear something freaky? You know, cats see us with like luminescent stripes on our skin.
Interesting. Like think about like
I wish
cats,
I could look.
You know,
I wish I could be
Avatar,
a fucking cat for 24 hours.
The Na'vi people, that's almost how we look to them.
Imagine
like
you could be a cat.
Interesting.
With your fucking brain for 24 hours.
I'd be scared shitless of everything.
My cat goes and hangs out on my roof, skyline like a motherfucker, dude. And I've got like these fucking barred owls that just screech at each other. Or they don't screech. They little
hoots. Dude, those screecher owls are creepy.
They get mad, like because you, dude. If you ever hear that, fucking like learn some bird calls so that you can find them on YouTube and play it on your speaker and just piss off the birds in your neighborhood.
It's actually hilarious,
dude. And it'll work here like really well. But if you hear that, it's called a barred owl. Fucking look up barred owl and play that shit. And when they are like, so like play it, give it space, like let the tension build, right? when like and at some point as you're trying to like piss this motherfucker off, like interrupt him with you'll hear him growl at you like it's so fun, dude.
It's actually hilarious.
So like my cat just chills just on my roof, dude. And I'm like, you're gonna get fucking. Yeah, I've had. This is my third cat,
and
the other one, and the other two within a couple of weeks they were gone. They just disappeared. Just got swooped. And like I'm allergic to cats. Like they give me.
Too.
I'm not anymore because I've been living with them for years. Yeah, but honestly, get it out of so I was doing it to appease my family. At first, I was like, I can fucking deal with like being uncomfortable.
Sniffy nose, whatever.
Yeah, whatever. It ultimately led to like sometimes kind of severe asthma, but whatever. I didn't expect that. But like, you can't get rid of the kid's cat now, right?
Dad's dying. Oh well.
Yeah. So we went through a couple of cats. We're like, I'm not getting another cat, and then we just had mice like running through my kitchen, like by our feet and shit. This. And I just fucking got a cat, dude. Fuck it. And this dude he's the baddest motherfucker. He's gorgeous. He hangs out like outside, but he doesn't like our other cats went into the woods, man. So like cats are super fucking territorial. Like generally, like you think like like lions like hang out in like groups. Mm-hmm. Generally, cats aren't like that. House cats certainly aren't, and bobcats aren't. And if they get in the area, like they will fuck each other up. And they have like big areas. That's part of why like they do so poorly in Florida. It's part of why it's like so hard because like a single cat needs so much range without any competition from other cats because they'll fuck each other up. Mm-hmm. So if my cat goes out and meets a bobcat. And bobcats are fucking way bigger than my cat. Like I don't have a big house. A bobcat's like I've seen house cats that are like bobcat size, but I've seen bobcats that are fucking big, huge, dude.
Yeah. Like damn near big dog size.
If my cat met a bobcat outside, he'd be fucked. So my first two would just go out, dude. They were fucking beasts. They were like boogeymen, dude. My cat stays around the house. They're fucking dead rodents everywhere. Mm-hmm. Half of that's my dog, though.
Yeah.
Because I got this. He's a bird dog, but he's a German pointing bird dog, and they were bred to be versatile hunting dogs. So he can point. He can track with his nose. He can track with his eyes too, which is important for water retrieval, which they do. So he can point, or he can track. He can point. He can retrieve. And then they're like bred for like swimming. They got like webbed toes.
Oh,
and
wow.
That's cool. So they're what's called a versatile hunting breed. And in Germany, they bred these things. So like the way that sort of hunting land has been like managed in Europe throughout history is like the aristocracy fucking owns everything. And so they use that land so that other fucking rich people, their buddies, can come hunt and they can hunt on that land. So they would manage the property for that. So like Jägermeister means like game master. So a German Jägermeister is the guy who manages the land, and that's why they got like a deer on the bottle of the Jägermeister,
wow.
right?
Okay.
They were the Jägermeister. So
I gotta quit watching. As soon as you said Jaeger, first thing popped in my head is you're like Jaeger.
I say Jägermeister, and Sam's like,
dog.
So I'll be right back. So people like to hunt birds. They're like these point dogs for these things. And so these are like ground nesting birds. And small mammals fucking feast on eggs of ground nesting birds, right? Because they're a lot easier to get than eggs up in the tree. So like something akin, this is like Europe, but something akin to like possums and rodents. So like in places where I actually ran a trap line one time on like a piece of property that was being managed for quail. Mm-hmm. And so I went with this dude. That's a cool story that we can get into maybe later, where I ran a trap line and we like killed a bunch of fucking possums and raccoons with this fucking suppressed 22 pistol, this Ruger. It was fucking crazy. Crazy. This dude worked for the federal government. I wanted to get that job. I was like going down that path and I wasn't able to do it. That would have been cool though. I would have been like a beaver trapper for the FDA essentially. But anyway,
little beaver hat.
So in Germany they're like managing these places for like specifically for these ground nesting birds. And these dogs are the ones they use to hunt these birds. They point them and they track them and they point them. And so the way sort of pointing dogs work is like if you go out into a property and then your dog takes off. And depending on what kind of property it is, what kind of dog it is, some dogs will go further than others. Right. So like hunting around here, generally you want your dogs like a little closer because you're gonna be in like real densely forested. Yeah. But if you're like out west and you're hunting sage grouse over like wide areas, like
you can see
you want your fucking, he's got to cover more ground. So these dogs would like go out far, and then they were trained to, if they came across like a small mammal, just fucking rip that thing to shreds.
Right.
And so my dog is a German wire-haired pointer, right? Okay. The German word for that is a Drahthaar or some shit. Drahthaar means wire hair or something akin to that. And if I can't call him the Deutsch Drahthaar is the word, Deutsch German wire hair. I can't call him a Deutsch Drahthaar. If I did that, people, if I called my dog that on this podcast, and people they would like call me an asshole, and they'd be right. for me to like be called, I think his bloodline is probably like sufficient to do that, but he would need to pass like these. I think this is how it works. Like he would need to pass these sort of things in Europe, and in Europe, in the old fucking system, they still like they would put my dog in like a cage with a raccoon, and he would have to kill it, and before he could pass and be like,
so certain requirements for that dog to be called.
To have that designation. It's like in an AKC register, or like that kind of shit.
Yeah.
That kennel club requires that of those dogs in order to maintain the purity of that bloodline, because that's part of the job of that working breed.
Interesting.
And people feel however they feel about it. I haven't forced my dog to kill a small mammal.
Get in there, buddy.
But he'll do it. He does it all the time. That is my point. And like, dude, in every way, because I had a German short-haired pointer, like before, and I remember I bought him from this wicked fucking dude, and this old ass dude in Tennessee, who like he just bred these things, and he was telling me about my dog's dad, and he was like telling me about how this thing had like killed a fucking coyote, because he had this big property, and he trained bird dogs too. So he'd train them, and he managed his property for quail. So he like stocked it with quail and shit. And he would train dogs, and he would sell dogs. So I just bought a puppy because I wanted to train my own dog. And I go out there, and we're just like shooting the shit, and he's like a friendly dude. And he's just telling the story about this fucking coyote that was like coming onto the property, and his dog, my dog's dad, is like losing his shit, like just wants to get at this thing. And he was like, "Fuck it," just let him go in the cage, dude. And he said that dog fucking killed that coyote.
That's pretty cool. That is pretty
wicked.
fucking
You
cool.
guys remember seeing that story? It's an old story, but like it's one of them guardian dogs for like livestock and all that shit.
I think I know exactly what
killed like 10 coyotes, and when they went to run, he like tracked them down.
Came back without an ear and like was all cut up. But he said he disappeared for like 3 days.
I saw a video of a dog in a situation like that, but they had a GoPro on the dog.
Wow.
Yeah, and the dog like fought off these wolves.
Could you imagine being like, bro,
sick.
Check this sick shit out?
Have you seen those ones with like the crazy spike collars?
Yeah, the bear killers, the bit with the Pekingese, not the Pekingese, what the heck?
Pyrenees?
Maltese. The big Polynesian dogs, man. The mountain dogs.
Wicked fucking dogs. Dogs are biotechnology.
They're
domestic wolves.
We genetically kind of created like these monsters.
I
feel like you can have it as a pet. What kind do you want?
Yeah, right.
What kind of traits do you want?
You want a couch potato or you want a killer?
Great Dane with
I
got you, bro. Like,
we made dogs that are damn near, some of them bigger breeds, they get like 6 feet tall if they stand on their hind legs.
Man,
for sure. Big ass.
You can only so far remove the instinct out of a dog though, because even my little fluffy couch potato dude, actually interesting little story. So I got him from a buddy, that's Ruben's. It was like one of Ruben's puppies, and so one of my buddies, he had these two little. Dude. Yeah, he's.
I hope Ruben listens to this, man.
Me too. That'd be great. Shouts out, Ruben. So one day he just shows up and he's like, "Hey, this is your dog. We like when his dog got pregnant. We're like, we want the runt. Like, give us the runt." So he's like, "All right, for sure." And so
I'm such a fucking dog, fucking eugenist, dude. Is that what that is? Fucking you,
like selective.
Yeah,
eugenicist.
Yeah. I'm such a dog eugenicist. I'm like, I want
the preem.
Yeah, kill that little runt.
Well, and they always have the most problems, the most genetic issues and stuff. Please cut that out.
Official disclaimer.
Kills the dog. So
there's some amount of pride where like my dog was like one of the bigger ones in the litter. Yeah. Fucking right, it was.
Well, I knew for a fact that I did not want a hyperactive dog. Like I needed something that was just gonna relax and chill. So give me the least, you know.
And don't think that I don't know that that's just like a shitty ego thing that I'm projecting onto that creature.
Well, me in the same sense too, because I'm like, if I could take the smallest one and make it the best, and actually he's the only survivor of that.
That's why you're a Muay Thai coach.
So anyway, the reason Ruben had to get rid of those 2 dogs is because they got a taste for raccoons, and they're these little dogs, bro. Little, like he had 2 of them. Chihuahuas. Long-haired Chihuahuas. So
that's so badass.
One day I'm over there and we're like a couple beers deep.
Killing a fucking
raccoon. A raccoon. So we're chilling out there.
That's even cooler.
It was super cool.
Terrifying.
So one day we're out there and we hear this noise, bro. I hear this noise.
That's an element I didn't take into consideration. Chihuahuas are awful.
And so like they're typically very loud animals. And they're
and if you're a raccoon. Like, you think a chihuahua is smaller than a raccoon, but, like, I hate chihuahuas and they're tiny. No offense. Yours is super cool.
Yeah.
But, like, imagine if you were raccoon-sized. Imagine giant chihuahuas. Even if they're smaller than you. Imagine a Great Dane-sized chihuahua.
Yeah,
bro, that sounds fun. And 2 of them? That sounds awful.
So, they end up cornering this raccoon, and we're like drinking. We're not really thinking about this, right? We can hear the raccoon screaming, but the chihuahuas aren't making any noises. So we're like, oh, something's getting hunted out there, right? These fucking chihuahuas come back covered in blood, bro, and they're wagging their tail and stuff. Dude, this raccoon, it was like
I want one of those chihuahuas.
It's on this hill, so they're like climbing up this like nearly vertical bank, and so they come like hopping on down. They're covered in blood, like matted in like fresh blood. You could smell the iron, and so this raccoon, like a movie, comes tumbling down the mountain. And when he hits the ground, and you know how raccoons have like little opposable thumbs, it's like trying to like put its organs back in, and it's bleeding everywhere. And Ruben's like, oh god, like holy shit. He's like, Melissa, they got another one. And so me and my roommates are just like, I think I can pull it in. I think I can put it back. We're just watching this, and so I've kept this in like the back of my mind the entire time I've had my dog. My dog's pretty chill, but like when I lived on the res, all the res dogs would come on, and dude, he would just take off at him. I'm like, one of these days, these things are gonna turn on you, and you're fucked. Like, I'm not even gonna be able to help you. But luckily, it never happened.
That's the worst thing.
My dog almost got killed.
You told me.
Yeah, dude, my dog disappeared for 3 days. I thought he was gone. My life was like a Cormac McCarthy novel, dude. I'd go outside and just fucking stare at the. I actually have a beautiful view from my front yard, dude. And my dog was gone. And like I've been on that trip. Like, we were talking about before how you're alone anyways, and it's just you gotta accept. And so I'm like, I'm finding acceptance, but like experiencing this like immense fucking pain,
Wait, hold on. So when he came back. Were you happy, or were you like, you son of a bitch, where the fuck did you go? Like,
I was stoked.
I can imagine the relief.
Dude, my wife went into
She fucking called me. She was like, his phone.
Yeah, because I was at Muay Thai.
Dog came back.
Because I was at Muay Thai.
Oh, her.
Let him know his dog came, but you were already gone. At that point. You had already
and then
left.
I came home, and she came out, and she's fucking crying. So like she walked out, and he was just like fucking leaned up against the like we have these French doors, they're like glass. He was like leaned up against it. She saw him through the glass. He was fucked up, dude.
Tough fucker, bro.
Oh, dude.
Some Revenants level shit.
He like I was thinking about this. I was like, that dude's neighborhood is fucking hard. He's grown up, and he's like the rich white kid, the rich German kid in a fucking res dog.
He's a very
community.
Unassuming looking dog too. He's very like goofy looking, playful.
Now he's like, you got to see him now. He's like really fucking athletic looking, and now he just because he goes out. And I think he's fucking other dogs up, dude. Like I don't think, because dude, he came back. Man, he's almost died a couple of times. He ate a sock. I had to fucking get that shit removed. Dude, it has been. I haven't hunted any birds with him yet, dude. And
he's gonna eat the whole fucking bird.
If he, I would, man. He's tracking like he's gonna be a great bird dog.
Yeah.
And thank fucking god, dude. Because my children are attached to him. My infant son loves him.
Oh,
so he's staying as long as he stays alive, and he just fucks so much of my shit up. it's fucking, and he just has like to love something so dearly that has so little disregard for his own safety.
Right.
It's
like, dumbass, what are you doing?
Because I have one biological child prior to my son. I had a daughter, and she's just like perfect, dude. She's like just the perfect amount of like balls, you know what I mean? Like she's always just like progressing and doing shit, but she like won't do things that are like overtly dangerous. She's like smart. She's just your kid, my best. Fuck, she's like the best fucking thing I could have hoped for in that regard. And my son, I already know, dude, is fucking nuts, dude.
Danger close.
Bad shit, fucking. He's so intense, and he's so fucking strong and shit.
You got like the two hyper like outliers of your personality. You got like the one aspect and then the complete other aspects.
Yeah,
just
dude.
like fine tuned on both sides.
He's just what a weird combination of fucking DNA. Like his I'm stoked to see like what he's gonna turn out to be like, man.
It's crazy.
I think it's gonna stress us out.
Oh, for sure.
Dude.
And it's weird to like we go about like trying to find out like these higher powers, right? Like, is there one? And like we're always asking ourselves these questions, right? And then you kind of get to that bit, like, well, there isn't. You know, life just fucking sucks. You know what I'm saying? But like, that's the thought process, right? Like I feel like honestly,
at some point you make the realization that like I've been asking this question over and over, but like really I'm just like trying to preserve my feelings because it's gonna be a hard.
And it's not like I sit here and I'm like,
it's
God's
not
not real. Like I've never
someone.
It's not something I personally. But there's gotta like like. It's for like anybody. It's free. It's free will.
I always
whatever,
err
right?
on the side of like, who am I to say with my little fucking monkey brain processing the few things that I've experienced to say definitively that there is nothing. That is an
I think it's important to note that like when I say that, I assume that there's like a it's like kind of self-evident that I'm saying that with like a humility. Like I recognize that I am fundamentally just a mostly hairless bipedal ape, right? And I also recognize that like like this could totally be a simulation. No fucking way of knowing. So like given like what I have available to me to like suss out what's going on in the world, like the sensory input and like my brain and the information I've received and the brain chemistry there that's received that's like interpreting it in the way that it is, like it seems
I will fall asleep, right?
Like given all of that, given all of that, it's ridiculous to think like maybe there's something going on outside of my consciousness, and like maybe you're even tracking something that I'm not. But given what I've seen, dude, there's clearly no fucking God. Like especially the way it's been described by people. Like if there is, it certainly wasn't. It's certainly
reversed. It's been
bro.
reversed
If I can, so
it seems to me very obviously to be just like a mechanism for control.
I think if they're
absolutely.
I think if they're so like I like what Chris said. How with our little human brains. How could we sit there and say definitively one way or the other? Like to me, like saying naming God sounds like almost presumptuous. That's why I like saying the Creator. But I do believe that humans inherently have some degree of free will. You know what I mean? And I think if a divine intervention were to happen like that, you know, that like I do believe in like the butterfly effect and all that shit. So like if the divine comes in and affects one person's life, you know, what are they about to change in other people's lives that they had no control over? It completely erases the idea of free will. So I think the divine, more or less,
dude. If there is a God and he's like interfering in your life in any way, there is no
right. That's what I'm saying. I think the Creator would have to be like, all right,
it would have to be.
This is the universe.
Yeah,
I'm gonna start it with some gas giants. Press play. Hands off.
You know what that?
See how it develops.
You know what that makes you?
What's that?
What I would call you? I'd call you a deist. a deist.
And I thought you were about to say, I'd call you a dick. I was like,
I would call you a dick. I would call you a dick. No, that's you just described like the fundamental viewpoint of the deists who were like like many of the so-called founding fathers of this nation were deists, right? Like Voltaire was a deist, and Voltaire was a French philosopher, but
Voltaire was a prick.
Voltaire was great. Yeah, Voltaire was a prick too. Like the Pope, and the Pope was a fucking cunt. So
huge, huge cunt.
You know, just he was like Voltaire was like had heterodox opinions,
intelligent social commentary for the time, like extremely intelligent social commentary.
But in either case, like that, when you think about those like 18th century fucking dudes in wigs talking lots about like liberty and stuff. Like many of them were just Christians, but many of them had sort of and like I don't even know. I don't think we really know who all. I think many of them sort of were leaning deists, like Thomas Jefferson.
It's the classical education system. It's the meeting of the Renaissance sciences with the meeting of the Catholic Church studies.
But it was like it was an idea that as opposed to God being like a thing as you described, as like interfering, and they used, and part of the scientific revolution was like was like hugely influential, and this was like part of like the consequences of that.
You got to remember the Catholics were very line in the sand. This is how it is, and anybody that says otherwise is a devil worshiper, and will die.
Yeah.
So it's like
these were certainly they wiped out whole like religions.
Yeah, these were certainly like heretical ideas, and so they use like clocks, like they described like the because they thought of, because people were starting to understand like physical laws, like Newton's laws had been described.
This was
and
when
people were
scientific
feeling
theory was being held out.
The concept of science, as a philosophical approach to trying to suss out what's going on in the world, which really is just like a set of like sort of tricks and mechanisms that we use to try
rules to measure
to keep us from. To help us circumvent our natural tendency towards like confirmation bias.
And biases,
we bias in a certain direction, so we have these science is like this set of like philosophical tools like Occam's razor or whatever that keep us in the direction of like the truth as opposed to like what we think it might like should be. Right. That's like what science
truth versus
and so
perception.
like these ideas like that whole like approach to like experiments in that way, like setting up experiments in this way was like. The people didn't start doing that till like a few hundred years ago, which is wild to think about.
Think about how much technology has grown since then, too.
Yeah, I mean,
we're living in the scientific revolution.
Yeah,
right
I think the industrial. I think that's a consequence of the industrial revolution, which I think happened as like I don't think there is an industrial revolution without a scientific revolution. I could be wrong about that, but in either case, yeah. So like they conceptualize the universe as being this like hyper complex, but still fundamentally like based on the same principles that like we use to build clocks or buildings or something. And so they described God as being like this hyper intelligent architect who built this hyper complex clock-like structure and let it go. And then the early scientific sort of explorers, many of them were alchemists for one, like Isaac Newton was super into alchemy. Well, I mean, that was what the shysters who called themselves alchemists were doing. But like alchemy is like the predecessor to chemistry. And it even borrows like the same etymology, like the chem comes from the same thing. And so like people like, and really if you look at alchemy, it was like people theorizing sort of how they thought the world worked, and they came up with like really elegant, beautiful sort of ideas, but they didn't have the scientific mechanism to like
back it up.
Well, they thought it was that, and then they found all the information that supported that point of view. And there's like a lot of information you can find to support untrue things. And so the whole point of science was like
look at our media.
Was to try to like keep us from shield us or shield us from our biases, right? Like I have a thing, I want it to be this because like we were talking about earlier with like the guy who told me about like how the universe works, and it seemed so beautiful to me, and it was like I want it to be beautiful, so I look for reasons for that to be true. Science like keeps us from that, and so the early scientists, the chemists, broke away from the alchemists by applying those scientific principles, and then they broke. But ultimately, all of the fucking things that the alchemists like theorized or thought to be true did actually come to be. Like, you can actually make gold from lead if you have like a fucking particle collider or some shit. You can do that now. It's like it's the process costs more than the gold, but dude,
you can do it.
But dude, that's insane.
Yeah,
if you think about it, or like the alchemists like theorized the idea of like a universal solvent, and we've like kind of come like, now that we understand like how like these molecules work, and we understand like the innate sort of qualities of water. We understand that water actually is the universal solvent. Kind of like fundamentally, yeah. Like it
just takes a lot of time.
Yeah, for sure. But it like most of the things that most of like the qualifying factors to be considered the universal solvent, that's like what water is.
Yeah.
And like, dude, you can't have people. So like, yeah, I guess I get defensive when people talk about the gold thing with alchemy, because there were like, that was like a thing, and it was like this occult thing, this hidden thing that people were into, and people knew about it. And then there were like shysters who'd be like, yeah, like fucking give me money and I'll teach you how to gold. Yeah, it's like so and then that got associated with the whole fucking group of people.
Yeah.
And so Isaac Newton had to hide the fact that he was like super into alchemy.
That was the
father of fucking modern physics. was like an alchemist, and he couldn't let anybody know.
That's those shysters you're describing are like the modern day self-help coaches, you know, like the guys that
there is
you pay
always,
them $10K and they call you pieces of shit for 2 weeks.
Culture, if like the culture doesn't allow for an alchemist shyster anymore, right? Like if I showed up, it like actually
the
it
niche
does.
is still there.
Actually, it does. You can find people who do that stuff, but it's like, but man, like the culture allows for yeah, dude, and there's so much of that. There's so much bullshit. Like there's so much culty fucking bullshit, and all of them offer valuable stuff, especially at the initial stages of the entry, right? So like you go to a Scientology meeting and you come from a fucking broken home or whatever, you know, whatever the fuck, like whatever your baggage is, you know, you show up and then they have like legitimate, pretty scientifically backed strategies for like coping with trauma, you know, and they flower it up in this like specific language, and it's kind of like fucking science fiction-y sounding language, and you're into aliens anyways, and whatever, man. Like you got your fucking, you came into this with like a fucking certain frame of mind, and they just they know how to fucking, they specialize in fucking tapping into
pressing
that,
the right switches,
you know, and then and then it becomes like it saves your life. You know, because you use these strategies, and it's like, and like you see like positive impacts like on your life. You know,
they'll trick you into saying
and you associate that with not even with Scientology. You associate it with L. Ron Hubbard, because that's what they all fucking knew. You associate it with this guy, with this personality. You know, and like it's got nothing to do with that fucking guy, but that becomes like a part of your identity. And ultimately, if you got sucked into this, it's because you went into it and you didn't know who you were. You know, like you weren't like a self-actualized person yet, and you showed up and you're like looking for something, and then you find a thing and it has a positive impact on your life, and then you like it's like
they take that key, so that's like a key
it's
tactic
a predatory
to manipulation.
Fucking thing, dude.
Yeah, so what they'll do
and
is
then
like
you will accept so much more bullshit later because it's like
they've like helped
for you to it's not even like that. It's not even like loyalty to someone who helped you. It's like for you to denounce this would require that you undo your identity, because your identity is wrapped up in it. You know, it's like when I talk about belts in martial arts and I talk about how like they're stupid, people get like defensive about it. You know, it's like because they earned a purple belt, and they did. It's like hard, but and it's like it requires like some it's like primarily it denotes like your status in a social hierarchy.
It doesn't necessarily retain to your skill, but like you were talking about the like how like Scientology is an example of like people manipulating people. Like a key factor in manipulation is being able to, you find somebody that has problems, you offer them like you said,
it's like intelligence agents do this shit.
You just find a weakness, a flaw, and then you build upon that flaw.
Exactly. Well, not even
find their
you might even be able to fix that flaw, right? Like maybe they have a problem, for that flaw. But then they see all these like good things that are happening for them. But it's not because they're actively working to fix these problems. What they see it as is, oh, this concept that has been introduced is actually the reason that I'm getting better in these things.
It's this foreign idea.
So the first brick
and also,
of this foundation,
if I can introduce this foreign idea into other people's minds,
exactly.
It'll have the same positive impact on them.
And it's that's a part of their system too. Is the process repeatable? How repeatable is the process? Is the process easy enough that I can coach someone else into repeating this process? I mean, that's again, that goes into like pyramid schemes, like telemarketing schemes.
It's all the same shit.
The same thing in Amway too. I did a little stint in Amway too, and after I realized like, okay, I'm like tricking people, and then after a while of doing that, I'm like, this is not like, I don't feel good about doing this.
I think that's all like Christianity is. I think like if there was a Jesus, he was just like.
We had a conversation about that. I think I showed you guys Levi West. He came into the podcast with us as well.
Wicked.
But he was talking about how...
I'd like to meet that dude. That dude looks cool.
We definitely... we're supposed to have another one.
Every time I saw him, I was like, that guy's fucking gorgeous. Every time I see him on screen, I'm like, holy shit. Does he?
He plays for Wolftown.
What a fucking man.
Crazy.
But we had the conversation about how much Christianity has taken from Cherokees, specifically.
Interesting.
Right? And how, like, they kind of came in and they were like, well, how are we going to civilize these people?
Kill the end and save the man, apparently.
Right? So, and then it's like, okay, well, you know what? Scoop up all their children, take them to these schools, border schools.
Change the culture.
The ones that don't want to change.
Fuck.
You know what I'm saying? But the rest of them that we can cut their hair, because you have long hair. Go ahead, cut their hair, put them in suits. You know, the ones that can adapt. He's good. This one gives me problems.
Crazy.
But that one's good too, and like, you know.
Dude, if you look at what the impetus of it, it was like this small sort of like regional thing in this like part of the world, and it made its way to Rome. And then because like when I think about Christianity, when I think about like if I have a people with whom like I sort of think of myself or like associate myself, which is arbitrary, but like sort of how I
like lineage,
like my identity, you know, I think of myself as like as like my dad was Italian. And my mom was a white lady. Her people were like English and German people. So like I just think of when I think of my ancestors, and I think about them a lot, man. I think about like the people who fucking for one, that's like where I come from. So I think about like I must be similar to them in some ways, and I feel like it provides insight into like why I am the way I like. Why can't I be 6 feet fucking tall or whatever, you know?
Right.
So it's like and whatever, like, and maybe I'm looking for shit where it's not, but like I'm hoping to get answers out of that. So I associate. So when I think about like my people, right? I think of my people as being kind of like nature worshipers generally.
Interesting.
Like pagans for sure. Yeah, like Celts for sure. Fucking at the very least they were like polytheistic pagans, and they were not generally like hyper obsessed with the afterlife, and they were like and
it's unfortunate we don't know much about the pagan religion because the Romans fucking wiped that shit off the planet.
That's. I mean, we know a lot about a lot of different pagan religions. We know a lot about the Roman religions and the Greeks and all that stuff. And it's super cool when you start like learning about like the common threads, because the common threads between all of those. You know, like if you start to study like Jung, that's what Jung was always talking about. He was like finding parallels between, and again, people are pattern recognition machines. Maybe it's all fucking bullshit, but he would like see essentially the same story occur across like different myths. The same sort of characters occur.
Flood.
And then he theorized or hypothesized rather that like we had deeply embedded in our human like it's like pan
written
cultural
in our DNA type shit.
Like and what he deemed like the collective unconscious. There were like these sort of ideas, and they were like manifestations.
Or are we all seeing the same shit? You know what I mean?
Yeah. And he had like, and so he had like names, and he called them archetypes, right? And so like there was like the trickster archetype, and the trickster archetype as it was expressed in
Loki,
in the
devil.
Nordic, Loki, Well, I mean, the devil. Yeah, I mean, that was just like the Catholic Church, just like associating like all the traits because he. I mean, he also was like Pan in Greek mythology. Yeah, he had like all in like Poseidon. He had a trident. They were just like lumping as many. And that's the thing. So you talk about like the effect that it had on your culture, and it happened 2,000 years ago or 1,500 years ago rather, but it like. I guess
it could even predate that. It could even predate that. But if you think about like raw religion, like the origin of like sun god religion.
I know, but no, it's so imposing. Look, we can go back. We can go back to like we can go back and I can like identify with the little shrew like mammals that were like hiding from the dinosaurs, right? But I kind of hyper focus on the last couple thousand years, and in the last couple thousand, like 10,000 years, if the last 10,000 years or so. As far as I'm tracking, my people are fucking pagans, and they're like they can be cunts. They're probably mostly cunts, but and I think most people. I think 99%. If you were alive, you were a cunt. Yeah. Because if you weren't, you got fucked up by someone who was. Yeah. So they're my cunts, and so I dig these guys, and I have to recognize when they were cunts, but like I dig they're my people. Yeah. I have to accept that. That's where I'm from.
I want to give you props for that one because something I really can't stand in modern society is how like Caucasian or white people typically want to be part of someone else's culture. You know what I mean? And I'm like, bro, like you're like Roman culture, Celtic culture, German culture, like it's all interesting. There's something to be proud of.
It was taken from them, dude. Like I'm a pasta chef now, right? I had to go find. There's a guy who fucking moved from New York City to hereditary. You said you're Italian. This is my point. No, this is my point, dude. This is my point. I was like, when I was a child, I was effectively I wasn't raised by my parents. I was effectively kidnapped from my parents by someone who was able to. My parents were addicts, and they were in and out of jail their whole lives, and then someone just was able to like weaponize the fucking legal system. And he effectively kidnapped us when we were children, and he just fucked us up all the time, and he raped my sister our entire childhood, and we were just stuck there. It was effectively like a little cult, and so that was and so what the fuck were we talking about?
We were originally it was
your people
how the culture.
Oh yeah. So I was isolated. I didn't know there was no one else in town with the last name Bartelli. When I joined the Army, I was the only Bartelli in the U.S. Army. And so it just was, which I was
You do have a really fucking cool last name.
So, like, and it was, like, the person I lived with, I was the only person without that name. It was like a genuine bastard son kind of situation. He hated my dad. So he fucking hated me, dude.
That's wild.
Yeah. And so, he made me, like, hate myself. So he called me,
inflicted those wounds on you.
He was a bigot. He called me a sand nigger and shit. He was just mean, dude. Yeah, he was just mean. And
that's not even the same fucking.
I'm a child. Well, it like the southern Italy, like absolutely has.
No, I'm just kidding.
The thing. It's just it was the point is he like consciously. And in an attempt to
dehumanize you.
If you can like sever a person from any sense of identity, like I had no parents
and culture, yeah.
Dude, you go into the world and you're one of these people who just falls fucking prey to cults. Because you have no grounding.
It's that
you can't be like this is fucking bullshit because you didn't need the self-help shit, so it didn't. So all you see is the stupid fucking language, and you're like, this is dumb. So now I'm a pasta chef, and like I'm like actively like trying to like learn about that sort of like I found like where the Bartellis in the United States are and like who my ancestor was. My son is named after a great uncle of mine who got a Bronze Star and a Silver Star in World War II.
That's awesome.
And I'm grasping for it, dude. And I needed it for some. I don't need it anymore, but I needed it because I had no identity. You have to attach yourself to something because you're a baby and you grow up but eventually. Again, you have to recognize, like we were talking about before, you're alone. And the culture thing, it's all fucking illusory. And it's like, I think it's important to have it and for it to be a part of you and to make you feel grounded, but to also recognize that it's like not the most important thing in the world, for one.
Yeah.
You know, like, and if it is, I think it's very important. I think it's but it's not so important that you start murdering other fucking people.
I agree.
You know, it's important enough to kill people in defense. I believe that. I think culture is worth that. But I don't think culture, I think if the culture is like in favor of like active fucking murder.
Yeah. It's not so good.
Then it's
net negative.
But ultimately it's always framed as if it's
about to
defense.
go to war.
Or if my people are the cunts, if my fucking people won, and they'll make a defensive war sound like it was a fucking, sound like it was just some crazy aggressor being a cunt, you know? Like you can't, you never I don't trust. And ultimately, I fucking hate
the winners are the winners write the history.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like,
but I think, dude, if by default, if it's like governments involved, like they're being assholes. Like, there's no righteous. I suppose you could fight it.
There are righteous examples.
You told me one time it was just
it's a territorial monopoly on violence.
Yeah.
That's all it is. It's like
it's the biggest gang.
I feel like that's where that resonates with Cherokee culture a lot, though. As far as like culture, right? Like, so obviously it means a lot more than like. And it shouldn't be everything.
No, I agree.
There still needs to be growth,
but there should be value in it. There should be value.
But it should be up there.
It should be near the base of the pyramid. I think.
Well, it's like the foundation. It's the first foundation. Yes.
Okay. Fair.
That's what we were talking about with the cult stuff too. What they do is that here's their culture, and what they do is it's an already damaged.
If you don't have a culture, they just
a foundation.
It,
yeah. So they go. Your shit. All your shit is fucked. Let's knock it over. Here's your groundwork now. And now so they build on top of that. You build
on it, and then for you to question up here, it's like, actually, that means this is bullshit. And it's like, now I have to undo my entire identity.
5 years later, you got a tower, and if you have to knock that tower down, what was it all for? You're back to square one.
Especially if you're in a if you're in a situation, and people often are, where like you use the culture within that cult to like justify to like justify some like unethical shit, some immoral shit, and then like and now you're fucking culpable. That's now for you to like you have to admit what you've done.
And if you look at the for lack of a better term, if you look at the meta of the social structure of the U.S., we as individuals have been absolutely stripped of any culture and what it has been replaced.
That was actually the original point I was gonna make. Yeah, it's like it's been taken, dude.
Instead of us being Americans, we all just spent a bunch of time talking about where our lineage was from. The reality is we were all born on this land. People previous to us truly have very little meaning on how we live our lives, but we choose to let what other people have done before we have come into existence dictate the patterns of our lives. So instead of stopping and settling, and this, I'm going to bring this back to the Muay Thai gym, instead of stopping and settling at a point where we can all agree, we just are kind of born into this shit. And instead of us saying like, finding camaraderie in the fact that we are all experiencing very similar things. Sure, we all have our own problems. Sure, we all have our own personal hang-ups and stops, but we are all still experiencing the same time and the same place together.
Yeah.
So if we can
worth something.
Pull away from where we come from, who we are, what happened to us, it wasn't us, it was people that we don't know, that we will never know.
You know where I learned this? I learned this, the point that you're making right now, watching fucking Demolition Man with Sylvester Stallone and Wesley Snipes. Because, okay, so like this is the premise. If you don't know Demolition Man, you should fucking watch it, dude.
Great movie.
Fucking like Sylvester Stallone, protagonist, fucking super cop. Wesley Snipes, antagonist, fucking super villain, bad guy. LA in like the fucking early 2000s or whatever. I can have the details wrong. Is like fucked up, like war zone. And
so when big gangs are going on.
And these dudes, Sylvester Stallone and Wesley Snipes, they end up in this situation where they're like, for whatever reason, even though Sylvester Stallone's a cop, some people got killed or some shit, so he's like being punished. So they both get punished by being frozen in like a cryogenic like chamber or some shit. And they're like, we're gonna release you in 60 years, and you're gonna be the same, be fucking jacked, whatever. I guess like maybe in 60 years we'll have like the technology to make you better people or some shit. I don't know. So they just freeze and they come back to the future. And fucking Wesley Snipes, because he's a super genius fucking so the world's like a utopia. Okay? Fucking it's like this weird, very hyper peaceful place. But there's this like underground, it's like the Warlocks and the Eloi and fucking and the Time Machine. And it's like very nice, but they're like people who live underground and they kind of make the world go round. Like they're poor people, and they
it's an example of like the essential workers.
Like like and so he wakes up and now he's like a cop in the future now, and he's like a badass, and all of these people are weaklings because they've been pussies for fucking 60 years, and then so because Wesley Snipes is this super fucking badass, bad guy who can throw wheel kicks at dudes. He just takes over the fucking city because he's a badass.
No one's
just wheel kicking the shit out of somebody.
Sick ass movie. So here's the point. There's a point where fucking Wesley Snipes opens a manhole and he goes and like you're just finding out that there are like people under there. You think everything's like just beautiful. You're like, holy shit, the future got sick.
And this is the introduction.
But like
of the underground.
he opens the porthole or the fucking manhole and he goes to go in and he goes, yeah, I love that smell. And that's kind of his character. He's like this he's got like a blonde fucking flat top. He's real weird. And so I think he like he like becomes the leader of this like group of like just sort of like unled sort of poor people, and he fucking and so he goes down there. Maybe that's what happens. I don't know, or maybe he just finds the shitheads in there and he just starts a gang. Whatever happens.
That basically sounds.
He
right.
digs
gets the following.
So he goes down later on in the movie. The cops are like privy to this, and they got to fucking go down and follow. So they come to the same manhole. This is like maybe a half hour later in the movie. They lift the manhole, and they go down in the hole. And the two cops, one Sandra Bullock, smoking hot in that movie, and the other was.
I don't remember.
I can't remember. Fucking their partners. They're like, oh my God, what does that smell? That is disgusting. And Sylvester Stallone goes, yeah, well, yeah, fuck yeah. And I had that moment. At that moment, I was like, there's a connection there. Like those dudes probably dug the same burger joint. You know what I mean? There was like a connection between those two characters, and it's like they even like I thought they were like so far because they seem like opposite ends of the spectrum, but when you put them in a different scenario, they're actually like the same fucking. They're just two sides of the same coin.
Like you're talking about the archetype.
Yeah,
you know what?
But it's like it's the same. But you can like find that connection with dude because like. Only us, if we die and we meet people from any other point. I was thinking about this, dude. Like, if you go, like, in Beetlejuice, when you die, you go to the waiting room. Mm-hmm. Imagine you do that, but it's like everything that's died, every sentient being in the universe.
Be crowded.
Right, what would it look like? Like
a long way, bro.
Octopus-looking things, and just like floating like masses of energy, whatever, right? Like you're just seeing all these things, right? So, think right now of the person you would connect with the least in the world. Jeffrey Epstein, fucking King Edward the First, Genghis Khan.
Diddy.
Yeah, whatever. Right? Right? No, like the person, like a fucking a goat herder in Afghanistan 20,000 years ago. Whatever, dude. Like think of like the person you'd be most removed from that you could not understand. If you were sitting in that fucking Beetlejuice waiting room with all of those aliens, you'd be like, "That's my guy." Like, let's go. Let's hang out. Let's talk about,
Yeah, when you strip away like your personal biases and then the self-imposed perceptions of yourself, it's like it's easier to connect with people.
I mean, how much do you lose? Like, dude.
I mean, I don't know. Personally, I feel like I'd have if like these other sentient beings and aliens and shit. If they were like, if we could communicate. I'd have so many fucking questions. I've been around humans my whole life.
I imagine you would just exchange information. You'd just.
So this actually reminds me of like the conversation again that I've had with my brother, and we haven't never posted it or anything, but we still record ourselves talking, having these discussions. But how we experienced the same shit growing up, because me and him are closer than all 5 of our other siblings, or not 5. There's 5 of us total, but we're closest out of the 5. Obviously in age, he's 22, I'm 26, but. Are
you the oldest?
I'm the oldest. But just seeing and going through certain events in our life, good or bad.
You guys are both like conscious for the same things, basically. Yeah.
he goes about them differently sometimes, where I would take a different track into certain things, right? This has no relation to us, but for example, say domestic violence, right? Two brothers go through domestic violence, yada, yada, yada. They both see it at the same time. They both experience it, right? They probably even
I had this experience. I'm interested in that.
So, like, maybe they hid from it, right?
Right.
They both hid in the same closet to let the shit fan out. Maybe years later, right? They grow up, they both get in relationships. One is subjected to think that it's okay because this is what I saw growing up, right? Whereas the other one probably made a vow to, like, never let that happen.
Yeah,
right?
two people can totally interpret different.
And it's just crazy how those development
and what
different tracks of development can
totally
go
different trees.
completely south, even though they're unrelated to our situations. Like,
there's all different decision paths and different fucking ways we can make, and you'll. And this is a random topic, but that's why at least once a year I like to trip, because there will be decisions that I've made that I don't even stop to think about. And then I'll be in the midst of an ego death, and I'm like, why am I like this? Why am I the way I am?
Yeah, those videos, I'm going to send them to you guys, and definitely take the time to watch Ari's, the podcast with Ari, right? He talks about archetypes as well. Yeah. And how everybody fits into this personality trait scale that he has. Like, he contributed to and whatnot. He drew it out for us as well. But definitely take a chance to look at those.
Yeah,
because I feel like you definitely would benefit as well. You kind of borderline talk about the same shit he talks about as well.
We should hang out, man.
Definitely. Yeah. And next time he comes out here, we'll definitely get back.
That'd be awesome. That'd be awesome.
But it's crazy though.
My experience was like that. I had like my brother's like had a fundamentally like pathological reaction to like our fucking childhood. And what's real fucked up is because we like went through it together, we experienced it together. Where's the bathroom at? I've heard people use the term trauma bonding. You ever hear of that?
Yeah.
It's like you were in the army, right? You ever?
I'm closest with those guys.
Yeah. You do like because
we went through the most shit together.
Because it sucked.
Yeah.
Right. You do like a field training exercise and it's awful. And there's like a lot to that, and people have talked a lot about that. Fucking Sebastian Junger wrote a book about it, and it's like that. That's man. But imagine like the same thing, like you're bound to this person, but they're just like a narcissistic sociopath.
Those people end up weighing you down.
Yeah. So like I leave my father, not my father, his father's house actually. And because that's my mother had 4 kids. They all had different dads, and it was my oldest brother's dad who raised us. And so I leave that place, but I'm always like from afar. Like I'm always like sort of under the thumb of my brother too, and I just wasn't able to see, And he's not like no one is just always all the time just a a bad person.
Yeah.
But it's like it's hard to see. It's just like we were talking about with the people supplant that. You have no foundation. People supplant that, and then like
you get too far gone.
Yeah, man. It's like I had to undo my whole identity was wrapped up in my relationship with this person. And so it's like for fucking just 3 decades, you just let someone it's like an emotional fucking parasite.
Yeah.
Sucking fucking energy from you. Yeah. And I wasn't like hip to that. To like the fact that you have like a finite amount of energy.
Yo, dude.
But like, dude, when I got that kind of shit, when I left it, right? Stopped talking about politics. Stopped talking to pretty much everyone in my fucking family, and just like focused on me and my family. Dude, people see me from like 3 years ago, and I don't even look like the same fucking person. Dude, it's the sooner you can just fucking like, because like so much energy was devoted to these things that I had no energy for myself or my family.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Like it just I couldn't do Muay Thai.
Yeah.
I
get you. It's interesting that you say that, because the last 2 years have been a big learning curve for me in that sense. I moved out here with my roommate, and it was a lot of like we were gonna go do a lot of stuff together all the time, and then I met Brock, and I was like, oh, Brock, you got to come along with this journey, like come figure some stuff out. It turned into more of like a fun theory, let's talk about it and not be about it, and I felt like I was always trying to put that foot forward until the point where like I couldn't anymore. And then the whole thing just stopped working. Like once I was no longer,
you know what, you didn't like, it's like the rocks in the sand, dude. Like you can't,
you end up dragging people.
You just got, you got to go.
Yeah.
And like some people will come with you.
Exactly. You know? And that's what I had found. And once I was able to make that separation,
all of a sudden, dude,
it's you're just free.
Yeah,
dude. You're just going.
It's like you hit the ground running, man.
Yeah.
Because before that, it feels like the opposite. It feels like fucking...
You're just stuck.
Yeah.
You're just stuck. I can't do any of the things I want to do because I got to worry about this, and this. The thing I wanted to originally, when we were talking about culture, the thing I wanted to bring it back to was I have spent so much time in my life actively not caring about, like, what group to fit in with, what color. Like I was telling Sam about this the other day. I'm being from California, you get thrown into that melting pot. Yeah. Like nobody cares, especially when you're kids. Nobody cares. Like my neighborhood, I was one of like 2 white kids. All of us just grouped up. Didn't matter. We were playing stuff. We were having fun. So it never really clicked in my head like the racial stereotypes and all. So we would joke about it, but you never really got it. Like you never really understood the racism because it wasn't like real. It was like anecdotal jokes, and you were taking shots at your buddies. When I moved out here, I really saw like the first, like I really experienced that first like prejudice where people had this line in the sand, and I don't care who they are, what they are, this is what they are. And you're like, how can you make these
I grew up in Central Florida
judgments?
where that was the norm, especially in my house.
That's
so like when people
crazy.
like you would like come to our school, because I went to school in Central Florida, and it was a crazy fucking football program that we had. So we'd have these rich kids, we'd have like these rich kids would get flown in, which I think wasn't even legal, but they would like there were like 7. You know the Pouncey twins? Do you guys follow football at all? These guys are fucking beasts. I graduated.
Super high level.
They crazy. So we had a crazy football program. We'd have like kids come in. People would move from New York all the time because it was like Florida. It's like this growing sort of town. But dude, like people would come and kids would just be tripped. They'd see battle flags, like Confederate flags, and it would weird them out.
This is some shit you're gonna have to cut out of the podcast. But me and Jesse, when we first moved here,
2 very boring minutes later.
Let me tell you about the police in Cherokee.
This is before I knew. I'm from
one's for
LA,
y'all.
LAPD, bro.
This one's for y'all.
I'm gonna tell you about the police in Cherokee. I love the police in Cherokee.
Oh, cool as fuck, bro.
I think they're fucking awesome.
I know a lot of those guys
Do a
now
great
too.
job.
I'd be waving to them and stuff.
Yeah, my
We just talked about this 2 nights ago, bro.
Literally.
Talked about this.
my stepfather was the chief, and I would like, I've gotten to know like some like the dude who was the chief.
Stepfather or father-in-law?
My father-in-law.
Okay.
Yeah, not that guy.
You said stepfather.
No.
Wait a minute.
Let me say it explicitly.
I was like, damn, wait.
My wife's father. I grew up in Central Florida. My wife's father is one of the best men I've ever known. I'll just state that explicitly. Not the same guy.
Super solid guy.
In either case, he used to be the chief, and my wife worked in his office. She was his PR rep, and I would often be, because I'd be her +1, so I'd often be at like different like events, and I'd meet like people in. Yeah, I got to know like a lot of. I feel like a schmoozer sometimes in Cherokee, dude, because it's a relatively small community, and like I like council members and stuff. I'm like, yeah, what's that? Like, I don't think they know my name, but I think they know
Your
that's
face.
that weird fucking dude who's married to Richie's daughter. and like, it's enough that they smile and wave, and I feel, I guess it feeds my ego.
Yeah,
that's how
it's
pathetic
still,
I am.
It's still cool though to have like those interactions with those people. Know, like.
Now I'm starting to build like a. Because it was like I was on the periphery, I'm a white guy married to a native lady who looks like a white lady, so it's like really not. It's I'm not in the community the way you guys are in the community, I think if I played stickball, and at some point my son will be playing stickball, so
that's
we'll
another
be
thing
ensconced.
too that I was going to say about this place is that when I moved here, there was not again, I'm a fucking tall white guy, so it's a little different, right? I'm not getting that end of the racist stick, but like I was always told like, bro, stay off the res, like you don't fit in there, don't go where you don't belong, like blah blah blah. And then I moved into Birdtown, and so like
you're cooked.
So that's what everybody was saying. They're like, "You're fucked, bro. Like, I can't believe you're dude. It's so ghetto there, dude. I'm from literally when I was like 8 years old. That's the first time I seen like a meth deal, and that was like, when you're a kid, you don't know you just think it's normal, blah blah blah. So there's talk about it's ghetto here, bro. There used to be
look at these two fine gentlemen engaged in some sort of transaction.
Yeah, right. There's people walking around with fucking
mints.
needles and shit. Like from where I'm from, right? Like. Literally, you hear gunshots regularly. Like it's happening on my street type shit when I'm growing up. Here, they're talking about ghetto. Bro, I was walking alone in the pitch black at night, completely safe. The people I met there, as soon as like at first, there's that air of like, who the fuck is this guy?
Yeah.
But when I was introduced, dude, when I first walked in there was like 4 or 5 big ass native dudes, and I had my buddy there. And so I'm like kind of just like, well, I'm gonna see what I can do. And I kind of like walk past. I'm like, hey guys, hey. And then I see my buddy dab up with the buddy, and they're like, oh, this is that guy. Like, bro, I heard you do Muay Thai. Like, what's up, man? And immediately like accepted. And then ever since then, you just get to meet people randomly. You have good interactions with them. As long as you're not, it's the same anywhere. As long as you're not across the street.
You can find yourself in a gnarly house party, though.
Oh, for sure. You can find I've done a great job of avoiding.
There are pockets within the community that should be avoided.
Bro, for sure. Because I mean, there's always like there are actually situations that stem or that build off of that whole you're down there.
Yeah.
Like I mean, there's
there's
stories of
tribal. If I
definitely use your best judgment. Like don't go places you know you probably shouldn't go in the first place, regardless of prejudices.
Yeah, that weird blanket. Like in general. Like I certainly drove through here cautiously. You know, there was a guy because I was like I didn't know where to go, so I was like
I was just fucking pulling into people's spots. Like
and a dude drove past. Dude, look, man. I grew up in some places where just if people didn't know you and you drove past,
you get pressed.
That was a fucking problem for some reason. You know what I mean? And these were dangerous people. You know, and I didn't it wasn't my entire childhood. We moved around a lot, but there were some spots I lived in, man, that were dude, don't drive through there.
That's
you know, it's a dead end, and you're gonna have to make a 3-point turn somewhere, and there are gonna be a lot of fucking dudes standing outside.
That's a big
waiting to sell crack at 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Experience though, like you learn how to navigate those scenarios, and it's like. It's a lot of times you end
hopefully
up in those
you don't
spots.
get your fucking wig split.
Yeah, dude, it's so rare though. Like if you're not seeking that trouble, only when I was a young man.
It's two things.
When I was like, "Fuck you," I don't give a fuck. Like, oh, you think you're hard? I'm harder. That's the energy that's gonna get you killed.
It's two things. It's either that, which is compensation for your inability to handle the situation, or it's that you obviously can't handle it and you look like a victim. I was watching this thing with DMX one time, and he was he was walking around, and he was just kind of monologuing. It was so fucking cool, man. Yeah. It was wicked. And I remember he had this. It was he was walking the streets in New York City, and this was 2000, in the 2000s. This was way after he was super famous. You know, and then there was X had already come out, and that was he was huge then, you know. He was in that movie with Jet Li and Aaliyah and all that shit. Yeah. And then but he's walking through the fucking hood in New York City, and he talked the way that he rapped. That was just him, you know. Yeah. And he's talking. He's and he's talking about walking past, and he's like, "See, they're real, and when real see real, there ain't no fucking problems. Ain't no fucking problems unless it ain't a real no real."
Man, you know
and
what?
And there was while he was fucking walking down this alley, these two dudes were beating the fuck out of each other. They had big puffy jackets on. They had big puffy jackets on, and they were just going at it like there was some kind of problem that they had by themselves.
And he's just walking on.
And DMX is walking past them in a fucking alleyway, and there's a camera dude, at least one camera guy behind him.
It's
and he's walking. He just points. He's like, "Y'all need to cut that shit out. Y'all need to calm the fuck down." He just walks off. It was so cool, dude. It was probably on MTV or something. It was so cool. And I was thinking, was like, dude, those dudes had no idea that was DMX.
Yeah.
If they knew it was DMX, they'd be like,
dude, straight.
let's give a pause.
Hold on, dog.
Dude, an interesting thing. So
that's a big thing, though. Like, I think it's important to know how to fight, and because it just it's so much easier to avoid fights if you know that, like, if there's no concern. Like, if you know, like, that you can defend yourself if you have to.
Yeah.
If you have that because at the base, because again, we're just like individuals in the world, and I can't trust anyone fundamentally, right? And I like at the base of our interactions is the potential for violence.
Yeah.
Right. And usually it never goes that because we're at level 7 or 6, right? Right. Like if we never get past level 1 for whatever reason, or if something takes us back down to level 1, like you see me checking your wife's ass out. Then, you know, like, so, like, that's always there.
One of my favorite things you said is, I have a fist that I can hit you with. Like, it always comes back to that.
Dude. And it's like, if at my core I know or don't know if I can handle that situation, that's really what it is. It's the insecurity. Like, I don't know if I can. Then... like that comes out in your especially if it doesn't come out whenever you're hanging out with your buddies because your buddies don't pose existential threats. But as soon as you fucking make that wrong turn and you end up in that neighborhood and you're talking to people, like whatever that insecurity is coming out somewhere, and it might be coming out as like aggression or it might be coming out as fucking fear. But both of those things can be like hyper problematic in those kinds of like dangerous situations. So like I think it's critical to teach your sons and your daughters to some degree, but like critical to teach them how to I don't think like women's social interactions, I don't think it's like I don't think they
it's more of a defense thing against men.
I think there's less of a. I think that's less of a threat among women. It just is. Like women aren't aggressive.
I don't think their mindset's like
it's a different. Whereas men are looking at it's not that there's no aggression or anything, but like the threat for physical violence for women comes from like men, and they can't defend themselves against men anyways, realistically. So like so it's not even so they don't operate. I don't think women operate in that way, and I think that's why women fundamentally are better than us. But in either case, I have to teach my son how to fucking throw down because he's gonna make wrong turns in bad neighborhoods. Like of course, avoid the bad neighborhood. Like of course,
but you're always gonna make those mistakes.
But also, like fucking like don't be a pussy in the world either.
Yeah,
you know,
don't let people tread on you in the same breath.
Figure out how to like walk that boundary. Because that's really what life is. It's like it's not staying safe all the time, and it's certainly not like it shouldn't be fucking being in like hyper dangerous situations. You gotta find that balance where like you know like dude, I know that part of like the strength in my wife's relationship with mine is that there was a problem one time and she liked the way I handled it, you know. And if I had handled it differently, we would have a very fucking different relationship right now. Yeah. And how I handled it would not have happened in the way that it did if I didn't at least have like a scientifically backed, let's say, confidence that against most people I'm not going to get hurt badly
or just like tested. Yeah, just like you've been tested.
It actually ended up becoming hyper dangerous, and I almost got fucking jumped. And luckily they were like young and they punked out.
Convinced them, yeah.
Dude, it was man. It was silly, dude. It like I think about it all the time. I don't know if we have time to get into it, but like it's a fun story to get into because like I made so many bad decisions. All right.
Well, okay. So first though, real quick, how are you on Tom?
I've got nowhere to be today.
I have to pick up my daughter in Silva around 3, so I gotta head out probably about a half an hour.
Okay. How are you on Tom?
I ain't got nowhere to be till like 6.
Okay. So I think we do have time to get into these stories, right? But when you got up here, while we're still around the same topic, right? The story that you were asked about.
Yes.
Right.
I want to hear that
Since it's a good time to get into those. It plays into the part of knowing how to like.
I'm fucking talking too much. How about you tell the fucking story?
I mean, that's what I want. That's what it's for. As long as you're comfortable, right? Because this is what we want, right?
Yeah,
we didn't like.
These things aren't what I do when I smoke, dude.
These things aren't scripted, so it's like we don't have a board here like this, and this. It's like we okay, what do you want to talk about? Okay, we'll talk about this.
I'm like this all the time. It's exhausting for my friends and family. It's fucking ridiculous.
No, but it's like it'd be different if it wasn't filled with actual knowledge, right?
Yeah,
if it was just rambling about like this one time, blah 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 blah.
even the contest. I feel like it's always valid, but sometimes, especially my kids, because they don't give a fuck about thermodynamics. They're like, fuck, dude.
Like, can I go now? Yeah. Like, yeah, sorry, go.
But like, so a couple years ago, still in the military, my son was just born. He was 5 days old, actually.
One eternity later.
Bro, you fucking say crazy shit like that to me, right?
Yeah.
But that's like that young man. I let it get to me. I really let it get to me.
But you didn't know.
Dudes should be confined to fucking cages till they're 25.
The only reason why I let that get to me though is like it upsets me, right?
Dude,
because
like,
one, it's like
they're trying to fucking alpha you, and it's like, okay. Like, you want to see if I'm a bitch.
That's what I'm saying.
And then you just keep pressing.
But that's part of the conversation I've had.
Are you going to do something about this now?
Right. That's the part of the conversation I've had with my significant other as well. Is like, people try me sometimes a lot. You know how jokey I am all the time, right? I'm just goofy as fuck. I don't want to be combative.
Yeah, that's how you do it. You de-escalate with jokes and stuff.
But it's like, I feel like because they see that, they think like, oh, he's an
easy target.
This shit is sweet out here. And I'm like...
Yeah.
Let me tell you though, bro, I don't think I'm
really badass, but I know if you want to go down that route, I have no problem.
I will. Bro. You are also scary though, like so with if people like you are physically an imposing man. So if you stand next to me and you're like,
I think a big part of it,
up on me, I'm not gonna fucking
I used to
chest back up on you. You know what I mean? I'm like, all right, you got it, bro. Like,
I used to hang out with a cat named. We called him Tiny. He was a big ass dude, and he used to, and he like people try him all the time. He was like this. The words I would use is I love Tiny and I want he was like a southern he was a dude from Central Florida, man, just like super into NASCAR, like big kind of corn fed dude, and had been in and out of jail and stuff, but he was like just a sweet guy. But he just didn't take any shit, I think he grew up getting his ass kicked, and he grew up getting fucked with.
Yeah.
And he just, and that was like, for me, it was just like, I am done taking shit from everyone. Like, never again. It's like, and if you fucking beat my ass, that's fine, but you're not just gonna fucking punk me.
Yeah, you're not
without me.
Over on me.
For sure. And you can't let it go, you know? And so anyways. What the fuck was I even talking about?
Because we were talking about how like letting people basically get one over on you, but like not allowing it to escalate past a certain point. Where it's like
I'm to a point now, dude. I can accept now, as I'm older, I can accept a lot of fucking dishonor before death. I'm okay, dude. I'm just like, dude, that's fine, man. Whatever. You think, okay, cause dude, it's
people always say like death before dishonor. It's like, what is dishonor?
I thought about it. I've thought about that phrase specifically though, but where they say like death before dishonor, right?
I just choose my battles. Like, I'm not gonna let my child get fucked with. So I don't have enough energy for these fucking like douchebags out here who are just like picking fights because ultimately they're probably just traumatized little boys.
I mean, if a little broccoli tops call me a fag, I'm not gonna knock him out. Whatever, bro.
Dude, I got fights. I got fights to defend my family that I got to fucking deal with. You know what I mean? So like, I don't have the
first time I've really like. You look at my like you actual history, right?
You had a fucking lethal force against someone who was like who was trying to hurt your trying to hurt your family.
And then like these people from the outside looking in think like, oh, he probably thought he was because he was in the army. He's gangster and he's black and da 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 da. It has nothing to do with that.
They just don't know, bro.
Yeah, and it's like.
Well, that's where people have a bias, and they're going to look for things that support it, man.
Right. And at the end of the day, it's like, it's just, I don't know. You look at fucking my actual track history, right? Fucking fought all through grade school, whatever. I calmed down in boarding school because if you got kicked out, it's $50,000. Like, you still got to pay the shit, whatever. Fucking got fired from the casino for fighting. Dude named Spider. He's 6'5". Tried to put me in a headlock.
Wait.
Yeah.
That's
big dude.
Does he do jujitsu?
No.
Okay, never mind.
Native guy?
Different. Yeah, there's a native guy that I know as Spider that's like, we rolled with him before.
I don't remember.
I was trying to remember his face. I couldn't for a second.
He's short though. He's a short round guy. He's fucking good though. We've rolled with him before at Mountain Valley Fitness.
This dude's 6'5".
Yeah, that's a different guy. Okay.
But for some reason thought like, I'm just put him in a headlock, after a little altercation. I'm like, you got to be retarded,
like,
bro.
Yeah, I'm taking your ass straight down.
But, I mean, it was broken up. We didn't really get in a fight. Still got fired, whatever. I'm like, fuck it. I'll go to the Army instead. Go to the Army.
That shit happens.
All the
Yeah,
time.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
we're
yeah.
always fighting, whatever. I couldn't tell you how many. And I hung out with Samoans because, you know, them motherfuckers like to fight. So, I never fought
Big boy
them.
bodyguards, too.
Because I ain't dumb.
Sick.
Yeah. But we just fight other people.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah.
But then...
And the
that
army's
shit
just
happens.
rife with dudes.
Yeah.
With weak ass fucking dudes who have the backing of the army to like force you to do shit that you don't want to do. So like a dude who can't fight worth a shit. I had a fucking national park ranger fuck with me yesterday. It was like this, just like a weakling who like you happen to be an NCO, so you're like a made guy, and I can't do shit about it. And it was so hard. I was 30. Yeah. If I had joined the army at 22,
would have fought that guy.
I would have gotten in fights all the time, dude. I would all the time. Yeah. I know it. It's like, dude. Now I think about it, I'm like, oh my god, why would you do that, dude? But it's like, no, like I remember that time that I fucking tried to throw my car keys through somebody's windshield. Like, how stupid is that? You know?
Yeah,
right.
It's retarded.
And then like leaving the military, having that, like I fucking shot somebody.
Yeah.
Leaving the military, still dealing with that shit.
Yeah,
right? Because it was a felony charge, assault with a deadly weapon, inflicting serious injury because they lost him 3 times.
Yeah.
But fucking come home
guilty.
No, I didn't. I mean, there was that point though that you go through. It's like, could I handle it?
You don't know.
You know, could I have handled that differently? Like, how could I have prevented that? You know, and I went through all these different scenarios.
If you're concussed with a broken nose on your back, dude's coming at you.
That's what I'm saying. And I mean, like,
jerk is going to be to shoot that motherfucker.
Ever, dude.
Like, I have the history.
Your life you reasonably felt like your life was being threatened.
And it was. It absolutely was.
What if I had gotten... My reason, right, if we want to talk about that one still, it's like, say he did land one in it.
Yeah.
Concussed these shit. Like, I'm talking about...
He could have just knocked you out, slept you, and then he could have stomped you out, bro. Could have stomped you out.
I got my gun there. Who's to say he won't use the gun? You know
Take that shit out. Exactly, bro. You have no idea.
And they found him in the house next to him. When the police arrived, they confiscated a bunch from him, like, on him. So I'm like...
Thank God he just didn't have one on his hand. You know what I'm saying? Exactly.
But then I come out of the army with that shit. I beat that, whatever. They just dropped him. They never ruled it.
Thank God.
Self-defense. They just dropped it.
Yeah.
Dude, you're kind of like an Old West fucking gunfighter, dude. That dude had a gun.
Gunslinger.
Yeah, dude.
That's some fucking
that's like
diving out of the saloon.
Like it doesn't. It's not a cool story.
I'm not trying to perverse it.
It's not a cool thing like they have in movies, but that's what it actually probably looks like.
Yeah,
most
like
of the time.
realisticness of it.
Yeah.
Then I come home, Javian, right? Martin.
I got no interest in that. I want my fights to look fucking sick.
Kung fu.
I get into the basketball shit. I showed you the video.
Yeah.
There's like 5 Puerto Ricans there, fucking fighting for the 16-year-old, and it's like shit like that. Like when you look back, I've never once thought I was a badass. Like it's it's all been defensive shit.
There. Yeah, you're getting pressed.
Maybe in the army against other soldiers, but
sure.
Home though, it's like, yo, bro,
DV
come
shit,
on, bro. You know
don't
what I'm saying? Like he's a child, and then the kid at the Javian, he's 16, through his 30, knocked him on his ass.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go help and sling up the dude, you know?
I get that.
Yeah.
Like
in general, I feel like it's not a crime if 2 people choose to engage in violence with one, and we can decide like which one was like an asshole.
Right.
But if like 2 people like agree, if a person sucker punches a person, that's a different
mutual
thing.
Combat.
Mutual combat, Texas, baby.
Mutual
Texas.
combat.
I was about to say
that's a legit
that's a thing.
It's a cool ass rule.
Yeah. Okay. Did you see that guy who dressed around kind of like Batman? He was in.
Yes, and he kept challenging people.
I think it was Washington State.
It's fucking
Oregon.
Portland.
Okay, so Oregon is a mutual combat state, and this dude he trained MMA. And he was like a weeb, and he was like this super athletic, like black explosive black dude. But he was a nerd, you know?
Yeah.
So he got this costume and he looked like a superhero and he walked around with like his buddies. And then when people were acting like cunts, he would do like vigilante shit. I actually
would challenge them to mutual combat.
I actually have which was totally legal. And cops sometimes will like referee.
They do that in Texas. If you call a police officer and you say, we've got an engagement in mutual combat, can you send somebody to make sure that it goes down as it should? They will send someone out there. There's like videos of this.
If they
available people. Yeah.
Fuck yeah. I would do it for fun. I'd be like, I'd be the mutual combat referee cop. That'd be my fucking job. That would be
such a sick job.
I would go to like the gnarliest
His name's
town.
Phoenix Jones. I can't remember where it was.
So he dressed like it looked like the Robin costume from the Batman with Alicia Silverstone, the one with Mr. Freeze.
Where they had the nipples. Mr. Freeze, yeah.
Yeah. Like it was like shiny like that. It was ridiculous.
Nice.
But this dude could throw down, because he trained, and he would like. There's like this one video in particular of this guy. I don't even know what he did. He was like a drunk, fucking just being belligerent. And
that video is awesome.
He wanted to fight, and he leg kicked this dude just to oblivion. It was awful, dude. It was so gnarly, man. And like you see, like when he eats it, because the first time you catch a leg kick, if it's hard, it's like, ooh, like that hurt worse than I thought. Like, but I'm good, And the second one on the same spot, you're like, oh, this is a cumulative thing. This is not. Because if everyone was like that, then it's like, oh, you just fucking absorb each leg kick and just don't be a pussy. No, dude. You have not conditioned your leg. And you saw on that second one.
You were right. It was Seattle. It was Seattle. You were right.
Yeah, it was Washington.
It just didn't seem like a mutual combat state, but I know Portland isn't either.
Yeah, well, those places at least historically were like very conservative states, like out west. But those like huge urban areas, because they have like such huge populations in comparison to the rest of the state that's so sparsely populated, it's getting to the point where like the state politics is getting dominated by by city constituencies, and then like that those legislators are like imposing like that kind of worldview on the rural people, and like in Portland and Seattle, there are like a lot of like animal rights people who are probably like fundamentally opposed to the way that like we like ranch cattle for food. So it's kind of a fucked up situation for those people. Bizarre. But historically, these are like conservative places, so they probably got old laws on the books, like mutual combat back when motherfuckers had to fucking kill one another, there. And so you can still legally duel in some place, like in Florida, I think, and I think North Carolina. I read that article in a fucking magazine when I was like 12, though. So
who knows?
It might be different.
But there's all kinds of shit that you learn.
Some crazy old laws, and here's a.
We're not allowed to actually travel in
groups of four.
Yeah,
that's wild.
In Tennessee, it's considered it's a law they never abolished, but a group of Native Americans traveling in a group of 4 or more is considered a war party, and legally you're allowed to fucking shoot at them.
I'd be walking around with like a fucking banner that says war party.
Can I give a fucking devil's advocate point of view about that? Because that's obviously fucked. Right.
Well, they used to do that in malls with gangs. You couldn't, if you were a kid in the mall I grew up around, you were not allowed to travel with more than 3 guys, because if you did, you were considered a gang.
So what was it like in that mall? Was it a dangerous place?
Oh, people were getting stabbed all the time.
See, Tennessee's not a dangerous place, so it seems like a ridiculous law.
But
there was a time, dude, when there were, because like when we say Native Americans, we just think of like this fucking homogenous group, but not. It's like different fucking groups of people, like within groups, and there were like communities of people who were like fucking assholes, and like I was reading about fucking Daniel Boone. His daughter got kidnapped one time, and he rescued her. He like trailed his party for like 3 days. It was like movie shit. Daniel Boone, bad motherfucker. That dude went out on a hunt one time that was like so long. He like he was like collecting like, I think like bear carcasses, like bear fat, deer skins, shit like that. He was a market hunter. He'd go out for like a year sometimes, or years at a time sometimes, certainly months at a time. They're called long hunters. And he would collect this shit. His shit got stolen from him a couple of times. And he was like out there, he ran out of gunpowder. He like went into a cave and collected back guano and fucking made gunpowder in the woods to continue hunting. Yeah,
he's crazy. I'm back to town.
Anyways, he's credited with he was like among the first like white people to like go through the Cumberland Gap and like go into, which was really the entryway past the Appalachians into the west. Like you can't go west before that, So we think of like St. Louis as the gateway to the west, but before that, the Cumberland Gap was considered the gateway to the west. The western frontier was still east of the Mississippi at this point. And so like going into there, going like past when you start getting into that part of the country, there were like I think it was like there were like Pawnees who were just fucking people up because they didn't want people encroaching on their fucking land. So there'd be like homesteaders.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't know what else you do.
You're like, what the fuck are these people doing?
Yeah, I don't know what.
And
it's like,
here.
So it's like, look, man, the Indians in that area had an anti-white policy, and honestly, I have a hard time disagreeing with it. And the whites who moved into that area had an anti-Indian policy. And if I would have been in that community, and frankly, I probably would have not been opposed to that either. You know, it's just like it's like we were talking about earlier. Like if your people were around, they were bad motherfuckers.
Yeah.
Dude. They had to have been.
You had to be. You have to think there's no conformity in communication. Like we live in a global society now. If I want to talk to somebody in fucking Japan, I get online, I talk to somebody in Japan. If you were just picked up and dropped in the middle of fucking Japan, you would probably just die. Not now, but like 100, 200 years ago.
Yeah.
They just picked you up and dropped you off there.
There would be like a time where you weren't even
what is
allowed
this
to be
fucking
on
blonde
the
thing, dude?
island unless
Murk
you're
it
It's
right
like he's
now.
dropping ants into a different ant pile. They're gonna be like, "Who's that
They're
motherfucker?"
gonna eat that.
Yeah, just rip them apart.
Yeah, maybe he
He'd be a pile of limbs. Yeah, who knows, right?
Probably some amount of both happens, you know,
Mhm.
because there are instances like stories of that happening where like people, dude. And I think if there's a baby, if it's a baby,
That's the reset.
people are gonna fuck. Like, there's gonna be a woman in that community who's gonna be like, you can't kill that fucking. I saw a nature documentary one time. It was this pack of feral horses. People call them wild horses, but horses
are not wild naturally.
They're feral in the United States. You know? They're from like they're an escaped domestic horse. But in either case, it's this beautiful nature documentary that this woman made. I watched on PBS when I was a kid, and there was this real disturbing scene where they came across like a foal that was from a different herd. What do you call it? Pack?
I'm
I
not
guess
sure.
it would be a herd.
Oh yeah,
It makes
No,
sense.
it's not
pack
a herd. It's
seems-
called something.
yeah.
a pack
some shit.
seems too aggressive for
Yeah,
horses.
pack. I think a pack would be a
Pack of
carnivorous.
horses, bro.
When we think about a pack, I think
It's
you think
it's
about
probably
a group of carnivorous animals.
Right.
So yeah, it was, in either case,
what is
A group of horses is called a team or a harass.
a team or a harass? Okay.
I bet harass is Arabic. Look up etymology of harass.
What's that one movie? How something? Damn. He races horses across the fucking desert.
Hidalgo?
Yeah.
Hidalgo
haven't seen
with
that.
Viggo Mortensen, dude.
I have not
That
seen
dude
that.
speaks like 5 languages, fucking like
That's a good
conversationally
it's a pretty good
fluently.
movie.
To
Yeah, I'll
the
have to
point
check
where
that out.
people from those communities don't even like
Know that
can't
he's-
tell. Yeah, they think that's his first language.
Dang, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's some
Like
fluency
5
right there.
different languages like that. Wait, so this fucking this horse had an alpha. It had like this male fucking pack leader. He's like this gorgeous fucking thing, and he was like the protagonist of this story. And this woman had this very airy voice when she spoke, and I think she called him Cloud. You got to find this dog. It was sick. It's really annoying. Her voice was annoying, and I didn't really like it until this moment happened, where like this beautiful. He's like, I think he's like gray and black. He's like this gorgeous horse. He sees this foal, and he's like these mares are like checking this little baby horse out.
Yeah.
And he comes up. He kind of just splits between them, and he just fucking picks this thing up by the neck, and he just starts
Snaps
killing
its
it.
neck, yeah.
Yeah, he's just like throttling it, and he kills this thing. And like the mares are like trying to fucking stop
Save
him.
it. Mhm.
They're like running, and the lady was describing it. She was like, "This was so disturbing because this is like her."
Yeah, she's watching it as it's happening.
She like loves it. She's like connected with these
Yeah,
horses,
yeah,
like,
yeah.
and she probably is like just like projecting all kinds of
I'm
human
sure.
stuff onto
I'm
that.
sure.
And-
Look
and-
at their
and-
little baby.
In this thing, yeah, and so well, I'm sure she projected all kinds of human things onto snow or whatever that thing's was called. Like he's this like beautiful, but he's just this monster who just murdered a baby for no reason. He presented zero threat.
Seemingly no reason.
There's no rational reason. Like there's nothing that could justify what he did in a human context.
Yeah.
Which is why projecting your human
Doesn't
ideas onto it
makes sense.
is and we can't
So you
not
can't
do that. So
personify animals.
it's super disturbing when
Yeah.
we see that. You know.
you just kill the baby.
So
But my point is, dude, if there's a baby, the ladies in that group, the females, they're gonna
Yeah.
like,
What is it called? It's not
just
matriarchal. It's instinctual.
Yeah.
What is that? There's a word for
Maternal?
it. Maternal. The maternal
I
instinct
have to
kicks
go.
in.
all right,
Maternal
wait, real
instinct.
quick. Etymology. The word harass comes from the old French word haraz or
French.
haraz. It means a herd of stud horses or an enclosure for a herd of stud horses. The earliest known use of the word in the English is from before 1300 in land of Caucasian.
Look up one more time. Look up the etymology for team because I don't know that one.
Is team TEM? T-E.
Well,
O-T-E-A-M.
with that though, any closing thoughts?
Mule riders are
This was awesome. Thanks for having us.
Oh, this
I had
was
tons
awesome.
of fun.
I will make sure to sleep more than like 2 hours next time. I feel like I was so quiet,
if you
but I was
ever
trying so hard to
decide
stay
to
awake.
have us back on, I'll have some more concise thoughts.
Vibe is enough, man.
Oh,
Any
that's
closing thoughts, though?
that was the one thing actually before I wanted to talk about the Muay Thai gym that I meant to keep bringing it back to this. So we were talking about a little bit about culture and about how like we're kind of separated from our culture. We don't really identify with the culture. The thing that I wanted to make that I am now starting to conceptualize and be able to articulate is I was introduced to my Muay Thai gym and it had a really good culture for someone that was like real fucked up. I really needed like that type of guidance from strong people that I could learn to trust.
Right.
So coming into like Silva, just in this area in general, being able to try and create some sort of semblance of what I experienced, I'm only now really starting to understand like the benefits of that. And I can only really call it as a culture, right? Like we've kind of developed this very particular culture that I would say is pretty pristine in the way that we
his class culture is so sick, man.
Yeah, so like I'm
real particular about my martial arts classes too, man. I don't dig most of them at all, man. I dig like jujitsu, but I do not dig like jujitsu culture and like the stuff that's not the actual physical jujitsu part. I'm not. It's like bothersome. And his class, man, it's like it's the only thing I train now. I don't even train jujitsu because I haven't found like a thing that
like an atmosphere that fits you.
That I would like. I feel like I'm just wasting valuable time. Most of those classes, you know.
I will say you did definitely create, because like one of my biggest fears when I first started training was that I was mentally preparing myself. There's gonna be somebody in here that's gonna intentionally try to knock my fucking head off, and I'm gonna have to fucking answer. You know, you're good. But you've made an environment that's like really fun to be in. You know, I feel safe doing it, and I feel like I'm learning a lot. Making me less of a bitch every single fucking day.
That's all you, man. That's all you.
Well, appreciate you guys coming through.
Thank you.
Definitely, we're gonna have to do this again. So
much fun.
Make sure you guys check out all the links and stuff. I'm gonna put down below as well. If you're comfortable putting, I can put Instagram.
Yeah.
Yours and
that'd be great. That'd be great.
Either or, definitely check out the links below. You already know what it is, man.
Thank you so much.
Fuck us.